Hey guys, welcome to the second video in a new series that I'm calling, I'm going to throw it in with other videos. They're all going to be titled, What's Inside? The first one was Brown Cortex Edition. This is the Grimsmo Norseman Edition. So what are we going to do? We're all going to turn down our headphones because here comes a little bit of music. Back. So what we do is in these videos, if you didn't catch the first one, I'll do this little intro kind of the same way for as many of them as I can until I think that everybody's got a good feel for it. What we're going to do is, this is a knife I do a review on, and then we go back and you'll see in a matter of a couple weeks the teardown and breakdown on it. Usually filmed right around the same time as the review, but so that it's spread out and it's not all the same thing that you get like two knives, you see the same knife twice, just a little bit of a breakup. So just keep in mind, not all these videos are filmed at the same time. So there may be some time inconsistencies if I say, you know, something that happened or something I was working on. So just so you know, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna tear apart, and you guys know how I feel about this. This has been a grill knife for me forever. It is still it's my favorite knife that I own that was not a gift. You know, I have a couple Ferrum Forges that were gift that have a special emotional content. I have a special emotional attachment to, I should say. But this is my favorite knife ever. No joke, favorite knife ever. You guys know how much I love some other knives, but as far as like hitting every wicket for something that gives me goosebumps every time I pull it out of my pocket, this is the one. So let's go ahead and without any further ado, let's meet up down at the counter. I will try to do this in a fashion that's a little bit easier to follow this time. The first one was kind of a trial and error thing, and there was a lot of B-roll. So we're trying not to have as much B-roll this time. Grab yourself a cup of coffee and join me in tearing apart the Grimsmo Norseman. All right, so here we go. I do have to say that the Grimsmo Norseman is, I think, the easiest knife in my entire collection to disassemble because it uses one torque. The brown was easy, but the brown I had, you know, it's still here on the counter, had to take out this screw, and then I had to take out this screw, so it was opposing sides. It made it a little bit more complicated. But this truly is one of the easiest knives to disassemble and clean up. It really, truly is. So first things first, you're gonna need some sort of screwdriver, bit driver that will give you a T9 Torx. Now you can just have a T9 Torx. If you have a Grimsmo Norseman, you have the tool. But my Grimsmo Norseman case is currently locked up in a box full of things that are being packed up for the move. So everything comes off from one side. The blind hardware for the pocket clip, I'll show you on the inside. We might actually take the pocket clip off. And as you guys know, I said I'm going to do a video about why I do orange peel. So let's take a look at it from the outside. You can see you only have to take it apart on one side. You can actually take the thumb stud out, re-anodize it, all these things. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing I usually do is I at least loosen the body screws, and then I take out the pivot. So I use the blue Loctite. You can see it on here. The blue Loctite stick. We're going to talk about how to remove that. And we throw the screw. Now, these Titan bowls are great because they have a magnet in them for steel hardware. Unfortunately, if you tip your bowl over and you have the body screws from your Norseman in it, you're going to have to play the let's try to find the screw game, which is the least favorite game at the house because they are not magnetic. They are non-ferrous. So as you can see inside, we're going to take a look at a couple things on this knife just real quick because it's amazing. Let me get it apart. So what I usually do is I just take the knife all the way apart. I put my bearings and things in here. We're going to clean those. This knife actually does need cleaned. So we're going to do an actual full cleanup. I'm going to pull both the stop pins out, and I'm going to explain the stop pins in a second because one's larger than the other. One is the closed position, one's the open position. Nice thing is they're steel and they will sit right there like that. So what have we got in here? You can see that this knife gets carried a lot and does need cleaned. So you have internal stop pin, and there's your detent track. On this one, I do have the ramp. You have the double stop pin And like I said in the brown video, these holes that you see that do not have any parts associated with them, those are positioning so that you can screw that knife down to a platen and do the work. There is their over travel stop, and there is the detent. And if you look, like I've said before, the Grimsmo knives use a flat detent, which gives you a really crisp action and super, super smooth because it's flat. But instead of a ball, you get very little detent play because that's a hard edge. So you can see that's where your bearings sit. There are no washers on this one. This is got its own bearing track that is worn into the titanium. And as long as you don't go crazy and screw it down, you won't have issues with that because titanium work hardens and it basically cuts its own bearing track in the knife where you're doing it. There's all the internal milling that you see. There you go with the internal hardware that holds the pocket clip on. And just to go the extra distance, we're going to take the pocket clip off because I'll show you a little hidden thing. Probably made in Canada, the Norseman logo, and then underneath, so like just to show how over the top, before we actually start the cleanup, how over the top the Grimsmo brothers are. All these screws are the same size too, by the way, so if you happen to get them mixed up, no worries. Every screw, with the exception of the pivot screw, are the same. So when you pull your pocket clip off, Grimsmo knives, right in there. I mean, that is to a level like, it's almost at this point that John puts Easter eggs in his knives. Like, you have to take your knife completely apart to find everything that's in it if you don't watch his videos. Like, I guarantee there's people that get a Norseman and they're like, why is that under there? Who's going to ever see that? But it just speaks to the, just what John wants his knives to represent. So let's go ahead and I'm going to pause you guys. I'm going to get everything set up for the cleanup because I'm going to show you what you can do if you happen to have super glue and stuff in it. It's just a little tip that you can do. Just to clarify, because I know that statement I said, if you have super glue in it, could be confusing for some. What I'm talking about is there are times that people will take a knife apart and they don't know the difference and they will put super glue down in. Now this one actually came that way and I don't think I ever cleaned it all out. People will put super glue in here. Well, the thing is, super glue is not as easy to clean out as, say, blue Loctite stick, which is what I'm currently using. And I appreciate you guys for pointing out to me that this is a better option. I do like the fact it locks things up and it's not so hard to remove. So here is the solution I have for that. We're just going to kind of show it because I never did it. I never got all the super glue out. I use a ceramic ramekin. That way you don't, you're not getting anything that possibly would stain or something like that. And I put a little bit of acetone and I soak it in there. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna soak that, clean it up, and I'm just gonna let it sit. So I will bring you guys back after I put some, I'm gonna put a little bit of, use my pocket clip to open it. I'm gonna put a little bit of acetone in this ramekin to soak these parts in. And we will come back. We will come back in a little bit after it's all kind of dissolved off and we'll take a look and see how clean they are. That's just about done. We're going to let that soak while we clean up the rest of this knife. So typically what I do, as I said before, is I use this rag for bearings and things like that. We're going to set this stuff out of the way and I usually lay it down on top of that mat because I don't want grease and oil on my nice pretty mat that I was given by the boys at Fair and Forge. So I try to keep all my parts in one place. The first thing I usually do is I clean the blade and then the bearings. So as you can see, like I said before, this knife gets a lot of pocket time and it happens to get dirty. And so about once every 2 weeks or so, I take it apart and clean it up just because I do use this knife a lot. Not just carry time, it gets used a lot. So I usually just take a little bit of rubbing alcohol, I'll put it on there, and I'll just fold this over and it doesn't take a lot. I'm just cleaning up the majority of the crap. Now you have to be careful. This knife is terrifying, terrifying sharp. And then I just do both sides and that's just about it. I could have done this by doing it under the sink, which is how this usually gets done. But I figured we'd do the breakdown. Now you can see detent track on this. You can see it. It's so polished and shiny and it's a little bit wider than typical because of that flat face detent. So you get a lot out of a flat face detent. I really do like knives that have that flat detent. I believe, if I remember correctly, my Skaha 2 had a lot of the features like that. I called it at one point a Rask killer. So next are the bearings. The same thing with the bearings that I do with the blade. I just put a little bit of rubbing alcohol on them, let it sit for a second, soak through, and then I just rub them around a little bit. The bearings on this usually don't get too dirty. It's the detent track and the lock bar face and stuff like that. So that's pretty much all those need. And I think we're ready to pull those parts out of the ramekin. Now I let them sit for about 20 minutes, just because I got busy and lost track of stuff. Now, I did pull them out at one point and look at them, and I could see that the super glue that was on it had gummed up and was coming loose. If you look, that's pretty clean down in there now. I used a toothpick to basically do like this. I got down in and was like, okay, I get all that super glue out of there. Yeah, I got some. There's still a little bit of, that is just 100% Loctite, the blue Loctite that's on there that has set up like, well, it sets up like concrete. So I'm actually going to go grab something to scrape that off with, if you hang on just a second. I keep this around for things like this and for glasses. This is a little glasses repair kit, but the little tiny screwdriver on this is nice for things like this, because I can kind of just get down in there. The acetone kind of softened it up, and it lets me just break stuff loose. Now that might be a little bit of super glue mixed in with some of that was sitting underneath it, but you can see we got all the old stuff, or as much as we need, out of that little low area. So we're pretty much ready for reassembly. So what we're going to do is we're going to put this knife back together. I'm going to walk you through the steps of it, and we're just going to do that. But I have to do something first, so I'm going to pause you guys for just a second. I'm not going to lie to you. Shooting these videos kills my back because I have to be in an awkward, weird angle. So anyway, let's go ahead. We'll start putting this back together. So, like I said, not much that has to be done on this. This is the show scale, and the pivot actually sits in the show scale. Nice thing about the Focus, the Grimsmo pivots are that they are cut in a fashion where they just basically sit in. Now, if you wanted, you can turn it the other way. You can have your Norseman facing up or down because it's cut in that fashion. So let's go ahead. We'll put it in. I like to have it like this. Come on, get in the hole. So just get that lined up so it's all the way through, and then you're done with that. You can just set that down. Next step, set of bearings, drop those bearings in, and just like I said on the brown, this is what I like to do. I like to get a little bit of the KPL. Now this is just the regular KPL. I get a drop of it on the tip of the applicator, and I put some here, and then I run it up the actual pivot, so there's a little bit of lubrication between the blade and the actual pivot. That's going to help out a lot. Next step is the double stop pin. I explained this in a video one time, but it allows them to only have to change the close position. I'm not going to get into too heavy. If you want to know about that, go find my Grimsmo video that I did where I talk about what makes the Grimsmo Norseman great. So that's basically it. You're right there. You've already got lubrication on the pivot and the bearings. And then you can just basically carefully, not to touch that incredibly sharp blade, drop that in and you are good. You can take your next set of bearings and throw on top. And since I already put lubrication, nope, that's the KPL heavy. I already put lubrication on the pivot itself. I only need to just put a drop on the bearings. That'll work its way through. Now, just need to put the pocket clip back on the knife. Nice thing is it's keyed and it sits there nice and neat. And you just take any two of the screws. This whole knife needs to be re-anodized because I actually carry this enough. I have worn the anodizing down to where the colors weren't what they were when I first did it. So that's a simple process. Maybe we'll do that in a video. There we go. Pocket clips back on. Final step is just to drop this back down on top of the knife, line everything up. And as I said, in reverse order, I loosened the body screws up first. I'm going to put the body screws back in first. Not tight, just in. Come on, work with me, bodies. Come on. Oh, you're going to be cantankerous. I just can't seem to find the hole. You know what I'm saying, guys? If you know what I mean. Last step. We're going to put a little bit of blue Loctite stick on the pivot screw. I'll just put just a little bit more. It doesn't need a lot. That's just about enough. With the stick, it's a little bit harder to get just a little bit, but you know, hey. So then, as before, now we're gonna start and tighten everything up. I'll tighten these body screws up. Now, here's the thing. I already know where that needs to be. I know which way the pattern on this is. So what I'm going to do is, well, now my pivot has come undone. I need to bring this back around and drop it into place. Pretty simple evolution. There we go. That's in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to test for tightness and blade play. So as you can see, that's not tight. I still have blade play. I'm going to bring it around, tighten it down until I reach a point where still blade play, no blade play. Action is free, not too tight. Even on a Norseman, as well as these are machined, you can over tighten the pivot. And that's something I wanted to mention. When you put these knives together, it's not always a matter of, let me crank that down all the way. There are some knives that is the case. You crank this down as tight as it'll go, and you're good. You can't over tighten one of those if you are, you know, you got wrists like in hand strength like mine, you can. But on most of these knives, what you're aiming for is, I just want to get that to a point where I have the free action I want, and I don't have blade play this way. And that pivot being tight will also affect lock rock. So that's one of the things, I did a video about that a while ago. I can do another one if you guys would like. And it is simply just like, what is causing the blade play in my knife? So the knife is back together. It's completely clean and assembled with the exception of one thing. I always take a drop of the regular KPL. On this knife, I take the regular KPL. Now, if I was using KPL heavy, what I would have done is before I put the knife together, I would have just put a drop of it on there. The thing is, I like the KPL heavy on almost every knife except this one, because this has such an open area. It acquires so much dirt and it just gets in there. So I just take a little bit of the regular KPL and I put a drop of it right down in there. And then I just work the action a little bit, a couple times. Oh my goodness, KPL does a good job of lubricating. That is frictionless. So as you guys saw, it was drop shut even without any lubrication on the detent. So there you go, guys. Let's turn this around. Some final thoughts on the disassembly. So that's the insides and cleanup and disassembly of a Grimsmo Norseman. I know you've seen other people do it. I wanted to do it and provide it to you guys because not everybody watches those other channels. One thing I meant to mention is the acetone. I did not dump that acetone out. I didn't throw it out. I didn't get rid of it. The stuff that's going to be in it is not going to affect future use. I get a funnel and I put that acetone right back in the tub because, hey, it costs. Everything costs. And if you can save a little bit. So yeah, guys, this is the second in the What's Inside series. I have a couple other knives I'm going to try and do. I'm not going to shoot too many more today because I want this content to kind of be mixed in with some other stuff. So these are things that like I see other channels do, and I'm like, you know what? I probably should do that. I'm just trying to maybe not change the direction that the channel went, but offer you guys more bang for your buck. I mean, there's people that pay for this channel, and if I'm not providing new and updated content, it doesn't seem fair to them. So guys, that's about it. If you like the videos, give them a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, give them a thumbs down. I am working on affiliate links for things that I use on the channel. I'm going to try and start getting that set up. I actually got an email from the company that's going to help me get the affiliate links to pick what companies. I'm going to try and have a Blade HQ if Knife Center offers one. There will be Amazon affiliate links. Jared Neves is going to help me with that. I'll put all that stuff down below. So if you want to search any of the items you see on the channel, you can go through my affiliate link. It doesn't add any money to you on your purchase, but it definitely provides money back to the channel. So I would appreciate it if you guys can use the affiliate links once I get it set up. I already have some in the one below. And if you haven't, visit my merch store. Guys, there's a join button down below. There's an applause button down below. If you want to join the channel monthly for a subscription, or if you just want to say thanks, I liked the video, you can do that. I will try to put things in the corner, but be good to each other. Keep it clean in the comments, and I will see you in the next video.